President requests village-level information to eradicate the underworld activities. Lakshman Yapa reveals a threat to Basil Rajapaksa's political life. Requests for police protection. Port employees stage a satyagraha demanding not to hand over the East Container Terminal to India and recommence operations. Vice President of Sri Lanka Cricket K. Mathivanan resigns from his position, citing the current SLC administration carries out their duties without transparency and integrity. India buys 36 Rafale fighter jets from France.
Good evening and welcome. This is News First, primetime news. Now for those stories in detail. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa attended a series of rallies held in support of the Sri Lanka Potujana Peramona candidates in Kaluthara today. During his tour, the president had said he would put an end to corruption and irregularities involving state bodies. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa toured the Kaluthara district during his visit to attend an election rally organised by Sri Lanka Potujana Peramona candidate Mahinda Samarasinghe at the Panadura Keselwatha Pradesh Sabha grounds. During his visit, the president had said the government has undertaken steps to prioritise locally manufactured products over imports and called on the people to enter into the fields of agriculture and production and to make maximum use out of them.
We used to import pepper, ginger and tamarind. We must stop these imports and build the national economy. Importing and selling them will not work. The economic standards of farmers must be uplifted. That is why we introduced a certified purchasing price of 50 rupees for paddy. Today the farmers have money. However, the economy must be uplifted. We will offer 100,000 job opportunities for low-income earning families. We could not do it due to the election. There are 50,000 graduates. Once the poll is over, we will offer good jobs for 150,000 people. That is how we must build the economy.
The president also attended a rally at the Panadura Urban Council grounds. Sri Lanka Potujana Peramona candidate Jagat Angage had organised the event. During a rally organised by former Minister Jayantha Samaravira at the Panadura Korosduwa grounds, the president pledged to resolve the drinking water problems faced by the people of Kaluthara. The president also listened to the problems put forward by the advanced level students.
Students are holding different opinions. Some are saying the exam must be held while others are saying otherwise. Let's have it by September or October. Otherwise you will miss a year of academic activity.
The president had also drawn attention towards refurbishing the Kaluthara nursing home. Trade unions began a hunger strike today demanding that the operations of the East Container Terminal at the Colombo port be vested with the port's authority.
Representatives of port trade unions staged a protest opposite the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, objecting attempts to lease out the East Container Terminal to an Indian company. Security was tightened at the premises of the port and its surrounding areas. The protesters marched from the main entrance of the port to the laden Bastion Gate.
All my colleagues are involved in the efforts to protect the East Container Terminal. We will stage our hunger fast indefinitely. We have handed over a memorandum to the President. Through that, we have sought a written statement saying that the operations of the East Container Terminal will lie with the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. If the East Container Terminal goes to India, all our jobs would be gone. If we fail to protect the terminal, we wish to tell the President that there will be no institution called the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. Before the election, give us a written assurance stating that the East Container Terminal at the Colombo port will not be privatized. We will not end our strike until then. We spent more than the $400 million loan obtained from India. Do not cheaply sell the ECT. The Sri Lanka Ports Authority has faced losses up to 15 billion rupees due to the interterminal trucking. During a media briefing, the subject minister has said that all these agitations would stop after the 5th. We wish to tell the minister and others that we are port employees. We have only one intention. We will continue our hunger fast from today until the East Container Terminal is brought completely under our purview. We will take this trade union action to an extent in which the activities of all three ports would be suspended. Show your love towards the country now.
The Port Collective Union to protect the East Container Terminal staged an indefinite protest afterwards. Meanwhile, the Port Collective Union to protest the East Container Terminal met with the Anunayaka of the Asgiri chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Vendaruwe Upalitero.
Our country must maintain ties with other countries. However, it is our prime duty to protect the 2,500-year-old heritage, the identity and the land of our country for future generations. If the government attempts to lease out parts of the country for several years, and if the next government also does that, there will be nothing left for the future generations. Your direct intervention is needed along with a meeting with the President before the 5th to prevent a disaster from happening. We feel that the President is not aware of these matters. We don't trust anyone else. This can be stopped only through a discussion with the President.
The plans in place to revive the education system in the country, which was impacted due to the COVID-19 pandemic, was explained at a media briefing held at the Ministry of Education today.
We are hoping to open schools to students of grade 1 to grade 10 on Monday, the 10th of August. Monday, the 3rd of August is Poya. Wednesday, the 5th of August is the day of the general election. More than 8,000 schools in our school system will be used as polling stations and counting centers by the National Election Commission. We hope more than 60% of the entire teachers in the school system will engage in various election activities. Monday is Poya and the election will be on Wednesday. National Election Commission wants the schools from us on Tuesday, and the votes will be counted on Thursday. I think students should not attend school in that particular week. There is a change in the time schools will finish. For grades 6, 7, 8 and 9, schools will start at 7:30 am and finish at 1:30 pm. For grades 10, 11, 12 and 13, schools will start at 7:30 am and finish at 3:30 pm. From the 10th, teachers have to report for their duties as usual. Teachers who do not have to perform their duties till 3:30 pm in the timetable can leave at 1:30 pm. Teachers who have been rostered to be in school from 1:30 to 3:30 have to be in school. This program will continue until the 9th of October.
During a media briefing today, Lakshmanya Wardina revealed of a conspiracy against Basil Rajapaksa, who is the national organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. There is a plot to remove Basil Rajapaksa, who laid the foundation for all election victories, from the political arena. During a meeting at a 5-star hotel recently, the individuals present had admitted that they cannot prevent us from securing a 2/3 majority. They have discussed that it is Basil Rajapaksa who has laid the foundation to facilitate our election to power. Therefore, this is a strong plot. They had discussed to remove Basil Rajapaksa from the political sphere and to prevent us from coming into power at any point. We will make a complaint to the police chief regarding this and request that a formal and secret investigation be carried out into this matter. A former minister had said that they will not be able to come into power if Basil Rajapaksa is not removed from politics. They had discussed that the Rajapaksas would be in power for a long time if this trend continues and that the opposition won't be able to succeed. In addition to the complaint seeking an investigation, we are also requesting special security for Basil Rajapaksa. They haven't discussed how they would remove him from politics. Sometimes it could have a threat on his life.
සමහර විට ඔහුගේ ජීවිතයට තර්ජනයක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
ඔබතුමා හෙලිකල යුතුයි නේද මේ රටේ ජනතාවට කවුද මේ කුමන්ත්‍රණය කරේ කියලා. ඔබතුමා තොරතුරු දන්නවා.
අද දිනේ පොලිස්පතිවරයා
After we file a complaint with the IGP regarding this, we will explain these matters to him in a manner in which it does not affect the investigation. We cannot divulge more details when there is a police investigation. However, remember this, we do not require political mileage at this point. We have already gained an advantage. There is no need to use this incident to gain political mileage. We reveal this matter out of fear as to how they would remove this talented individual from political activities. He is not a person who can be stopped by exerting pressure. He cannot only be stopped by his life. This is the seriousness of this issue. We decided that this must be revealed.
ජීවිතේ ඒකට සතරයි භයානකම තියෙන්නේ. ඒක අපි කිව්වේ. ඒක අපි එලි කරලා තියන්න ඕනේ මේක.
Sujeeva Senasinghe revealed campaign propaganda planned by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. He made these remarks during a media briefing in Colombo today.
They are now facing a very crucial problem. We received information that he is planning to get himself admitted to the hospital and conduct religious observances across the island while violating election laws. We will inform this to the chairman and other members of the Election Commission. We will tell them not to let them play these games because this is how the Rajapaksas come into power. Attending a public meeting held in Rambukkana yesterday, leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, commented on the expulsion of 54 former parliamentarians from the UNP. There are no multiple UNPs. There is only one UNP in Sri Lanka. We have initiated the process of safeguarding the party from those who defected. We will also conduct disciplinary inquiries into local government politicians of the UNP who are working against us. If they have acted against the regulations, they will be removed. The working committee met and after careful consideration, we decided to expel 54 politicians. That was not an easy decision. It was a calculated one. An impeachment motion was brought against President Premadasa. Gamini Dissanayake, Lalit Athulat Mudali and I were friends. All of us are attorneys at law. Lalit and I entered politics together. I was close to Gamini. When that issue arose, I thought first about the party. I needed to stand by my party. It is in our blood. We cannot forget it. President Premadasa did not know who was supporting him and who was not. His office called me and asked me if I was supporting him. I said I am from the UNP. If you are from the UNP, then I will support you. Thereafter, the working committee convened immediately as an executive committee and expelled many MPs. He said he had to do it. Those who were expelled formed their party, the Party of the Eagle. It happened one night. The next morning, I met with President JR. I told him, sir, I shun friendships and thought about the party. He said my decision was correct. His opinion was that if Gamini and Lalit were against Premadasa, they should have resigned from the cabinet and work against Premadasa while staying within the party. However, initiating an impeachment motion was immoral. I remembered another story about President Premadasa. When he was the Prime Minister, he told me people are making up rumors about him. He said President JR appointed him as the Prime Minister and that he had an ambition of succeeding JR as the President. However, he told me if there is ever a disagreement in policy between me and the President, I would much rather retire from politics. He told me he will not oppose his leader. That is how we were nurtured. We were with President Premadasa until the end. When he was assassinated, I overlooked the affairs of the state. I had to locate his body. None of us can act against the party. If people decide to leave the party, a decision needs to be taken from within the party as well. If this party is not good enough for you, you can form a new party like Lalit Athulat Mudali did and contest through that. There is no legal impediment to that. Those who have left can form their party or join the SLPP. Do not try to forcefully acquire the UNP. That is not a virtuous act. Bandaranaike defected from this party, created his own and defeated us. That is a separate story. I will not be here forever. There is no need for me to be here either. My decision was not an easy one. It was taken following intricate scrutiny and consultation with attorneys.
ඒත් අපි තාම ඉන්නවා. මම හැමදාම මෙතන නෑ. මට ඉන්න උවමනාවක් නෑ. මේ ගත්තේ තීරණය ලේසියෙන් ගත්ත එකක් නෙමෙයි. උගක් හිතලා බලලා නීතිඥයෙකුගේ උපදෙස් අනුව මම මෙතෙන්ට අරගත්තා.
අන්තිම සතිය වෙනකොට රාජපක්ෂ වික්‍රමසිංහ කුමන්ත්‍රණය දැන් කරලියට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා.
We can now see that the Rajapaksa Vikramasinghe plot has come to the fore during the last week before the election. When the Rajapaksas are making false accusations against Sajid Premadasa and our party, the clan of Ranil Vikramasinghe are trying to do something by making the people afraid. They are doing this together. Today they are speaking about the funds of the Central Cultural Fund. These funds were used to develop religious places of worship. They stripped members of their positions days ahead of the election. A parliamentarian who was elected by the people can be removed from his position only after an inquiry. I wish to ask the General Secretary of the small group in the United National Party to divulge the names of these people. Has Sajid Premadasa been removed from the party? Have the others been removed? That has not been done. We wish to say that we will provide the maximum protection for our Pradesh Sabha members. We are ready to protect the positions of 60 of them. We have already consulted President Councils to take the necessary legal action. We need the list. Although we asked for the list yesterday, we did not receive it. I wish to say the small group in the United National Party that strikes deals with the government that they cannot remove the 30 or 40 parliamentarians starting from Bogolagama. We won't be deceived by how the group, including Ranil Vikramasinghe, is trying to make parliamentarians afraid to gain political mileage during the last week before the poll. We are not afraid of that. They cannot strip us of our parliamentary position. By the 5th of next month, we will remove them of their parliamentary title and position.
ලබන පස්සෙන්දා ඔය කියන කාණ්ඩායමේ മന്ത്രി කමුයි තනතුරු ඔක්කොම නැති කරනවා.
The UNP has acted legally. That is why the expulsion was delayed. At times we drew flag for not expelling them sooner. But we always wanted to abide by the law. Which media institution do you represent? It seems as if you are representing those who defected. Let us not waste time over this matter. You are trying to fill a balloon which has already burst. We will by tonight. If not, we cannot evade the media. Wait and see. There are better names than that. It seems as if you are hesitant to know the names.
වගකීමක් තියෙන නිසා ඒක බොහොම ආරක්ෂාකාරී තත්වයකින් උත්තර දෙන්නේ. ඉතින් මහත්තයා අපි ඔය මේක චුට්ටක් මේ ඇද යන්නේ දැන් තව චුට්ටකින් නම් ටික ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. මොකද ඔය තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ? අද දවසේ නෑ එන්නේ නෑ වැඩ කරන්නේ නෑ.
මට දැනගන්න ලැබුණා එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂ විසින් පක්ෂ සමාජිත ඉවත් කරන බවට.
I heard that the United National Party membership has been suspended. It is an illegal move. We took steps to make Sajid Premadasa emerge victorious based on the decision made by the UNP. We cannot act according to the decisions made by a small group of UNP. However, on the 5th, people will decide where Sajid Premadasa will end up and where the small group of UNPers will stand.
ජනතාව තීන්දුව කරයි සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහතුමා කොතනද ඉන්නේ? ඒ සුළු පිළිස කොතනද ඉන්නේ කියලා ජනතාව තීන්දුව කරයි.
It has been announced that the interest rate that will be paid for the deposit of the Employees Trust Fund has been reduced by 1% amid the falling of the market interest rates drastically since the beginning of this year, leaving private sector employees' retirement hopes shattered. Accordingly, the interest rate, which was at 9%, is now at 8%.
The fund, which is under the Ministry of Finance, Economy and Policy Development, is open for self-employed persons and migrant workers also to contribute to the fund on their own and obtain membership. At present, there are about 2.6 million active members and covered by 79,000 employers. The value of the members' fund was about 306 billion rupees as at 31st December 2018. This comes days after the central bank data showed the Employees Provident Fund suffered massive losses totaling 39.08 billion rupees by the end of the first quarter of 2020. The EPF, the largest social security scheme in Sri Lanka, suffered massive losses by investing in listed and unlisted entities in the Colombo Stock Exchange.
Speaking at a conference in Colombo today, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa explained the current economic situation of the country. Even before the pandemic affected the country, the conduct of the government of good governance resulted in the downfall of our economy. I believe there was no international influence for our economy to end up in this manner. During this time, countries such as America, Germany, India and Bangladesh moved forward. When we took over the government, we had to reduce the tax burden of the people. We had to reduce the interest rates and boost the economy with some saline. That is when the COVID-19 pandemic entered the country. The challenge that was posed to us wasn't a simple one. What was committed by the Yahapalne government was not easy to rectify. As soon as they obtained power, they halted all Chinese projects. Some of the examples are the port city and the Hambantota port. At a time, European countries, including Britain, were queuing up to obtain investments from China. This was how Sri Lanka treated Chinese investments. This delivered a wrong message to all other investors. I believe there were other reasons as to why the Hambantota port was sold. I know that certain pockets were filled. But if we find out what was done with the loans obtained by the Yahapalne government, we will know nothing that was done. Since the Hambantota port was given to China, the Yahapalne government agreed and signed to hand over the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port to India. If they remained in power for a bit longer, nothing will be left in this country. I believe that laws should be introduced to inform the parliament before deciding on such agreements on national assets and other matters. However, what is left for us to do is to collect whatever they have left and move forward.
ඉතුරු වෙලා තියෙන සුන්බුන් ටික එකතු කරගෙන රට ඉස්සරහට ගෙනියන එකයි කියලා මම විශ්වාසයි.
At a time, the country is facing an unprecedented economic crisis and a plethora of other issues. A discussion on foreign influence has also resurfaced. Foreign influence included the MCC, AXA and SOFA agreements and the agreement on the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port and the Mattala airport. A group of professionals made the following remarks during a media briefing held in Colombo today. I'm talking about the Hambantota port. A person who worked in the front line. A person who worked in the front line to give away the port has now handed over a massive report with the economic vision to the president, mentioning that the MCC should be signed. So they are the ones who give advice as well.
එතකොට මේක ගැන උපදෙස් දෙන්නත් යන්නේ මේගොල්ලෝ. ඒතර කාගේ හැටියටද වැඩ කරන්න කියන එක අපි හිතාගත යුතුයි.
මෙවැනි ගෙවසුමක් සාකච්ඡා.
Although there are views that this agreement shouldn't be discussed, there are also attempts to consider this based on other conditions. There is nothing left to talk about. These are international agreements. Despite what happens in these agreements, there is no one to take responsibility. Isn't this reason itself good enough to reject this agreement?
නැත. ඉතින් ඒ කාරණේම මදිද මේ ගෙවසුම් ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරන්න.
Now, the MCC is not just a development aid institution. It is part and parcel of the US national security strategy, which is, and it is designed as a coercive tool to expand US influence globally and to secure allies and partners, especially from developing countries and what they can also, within quotes, consider what are fragile and failed states, because they are much more easier to exercise pressure upon. Interestingly, the MCC as a tool to secure allies and partners is specially considered to be useful in the Indo-Pacific region, because the countries in Asia have always demonstrated that they are more independent and more difficult to force into an alliance with the US, which is why the US set up the quadrilateral, you have India in it, and you have Japan and Australia, who will do the work for Australia, which the Americans won't be able to do direct. It stipulates that the eligibility or assistance under MCC may be suspended or terminated if the country has engaged in activities contrary to US national security interests.
Venerable Alle Gunawansa Thera expressed the following views regarding international agreements and the current conduct of the government.
The politics, economy and culture of our country are under heavy threat. The people in the country were subject to a serious burden. We appointed the current president to alleviate the sufferings of the people. Apart from electing him into power, steps must be taken to fulfill what we desired through him. If this government is appointed, anyone else does not have to criticize them. We will do it. Although 72 years have passed, the Sinhala Buddhists have not gained anything. We were used by all political parties. Nothing has been done for us since independence. Therefore, we now have to speak on at least what is remaining and not what we lost. We are compelled to ask politicians to protect whatever is remaining in our country. Remember that some international agreements signed under the Good Governance government have come to the fore again. The MCC agreement, the move to sell off East Container Terminal at the Colombo port, the selling of oil tanks and handing over of 1.2 million acres of land to a US company have now come to the fore. Therefore, the President, who placed utmost faith on this government, continuously said not to sell off the country's resources, to refrain from destroying them and to protect them. Therefore, he achieved an unimaginable victory. However, these activities have to be carried out just as they were said. We are not saying that they cannot do anything. Remember that the patriotic people of this country are observing the government closely. Although we shave our hair while entering priesthood, we haven't lost our minds. However, there are a few who are like that. That is not the case with the majority. We wish to remind the politicians of this as well.
විශේෂයෙන්ම අපි තෝරාපත් කරගනු ලබන්නේ අපි හිතනවා මේ වසර 5ක කෙටි කාලයකට කියලා. නමුත් මෙහි තිබෙන බලපෑම අපේ මුළු රටේ අනාගතයටම බලපාන දෙයක්. මෙවර අපගේ විශේෂයෙන්ම අපගේ නිදහස් ඡන්දය අපි පාවිච්චි කරනකොට මා ඔබගෙන් බොහොම කාරුණිකව ඉල්ලන්නට කැමැති කිසිම පක්ෂ පාට ભેදයකින් තොරව අපේ ඡන්දය අපි පාවිච්චි කර යුත්තේ යහපත් පුරවැසියන් සඳහා. ඒකට මූලික හේතුව මම දකින ආකාරයට අපේ රටේ තිබෙන මේ විනයානුකූල භාවයේ තිබෙන පිරිහීමයි. එම නිසා ඔබ විසින් තෝරාපත් කරගනු ලබන මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු සභිකයි දූෂණය, වංචාව, සල්ලාලකම, සොරාකෑම, විවිධ සමාජීය අපරාධවලට හසුවන්ගෙන් තොර වුණු බුද්ධිමත් යමක් හිතන්නට පුළුවන් සමාජීය දර්ශනයක් තියෙන සමාජය පිළිබඳව රට පිළිබඳව ආදරයක් තිබෙන සමාජයට විනයානුකූල භාවය තුළ යමක් කළ හැකි දේශයට ගෞරවයක් තිබෙන ආදරයක් තිබෙන අපිට සභිකයන් මේ පාර තෝරන්නට වෙලා තිබෙනවා.
We want a clean parliament. We want a clean government. Think before you vote.
In all my life, I've been campaigning for a Sri Lankan nationality, which is an inclusive one. We campaign on the platform of inclusive nationalism.
Is it a minority want, or is it what we want as a nation?
So at any point, if this country or all of us can get together, can eliminate this.
This majoritarian sort of way of manipulating votes is what has got us to this position.
Repeat telecast of Face the Nation today at 10 p.m. on Election First.
Welcome back. Reports claim several Sri Lankan expatriates who were victims of a tear gas attack carried out by the Jordanian police last Monday continue to remain injured. The expatriates request authorities to provide adequate medical treatment for their injuries.
You go away. ඔව් ළඟම හිටිය කඳුළු ගෑස් වදිද්දි ළඟ ශරීරයකට දරා ගන්න බැරි අපිටවත් දරා ගන්න බැරි වෙච්ච එක කොහොමද දරා ගන්න කියන්නකෝ අන්න කකුල පොඩ්ඩක් ගත ගන්න මට කඳුළු ගෑස්
I was attacked with tear gas. I cannot remember anything. We have been at the hostel for 5 months. Ravi is the person who did this. Before he left, he made sure we suffered a tear gas attack.
එයා යන්න කියලා කඳුළු ගෑස් ගෙවුවා අපිට ඇත්තට මගේ පපුවට
I got hit in the chest. I could not breathe. I cannot remember what happened.
මම දන්නේ මට මොකද උනේ කියලා.
A demonstration was held opposite the Bureau of Foreign Employment today, urging authorities to ensure safe passage to the Sri Lankans who are living under hellish conditions in Jordan. Several factions, including parents of the group stranded in Jordan, attended the demonstration.
The Women for Rights organization condemns this act. The wrongdoers should be punished. Justice should be served to everyone who suffered this attack. The Sri Lankan government should immediately intervene.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා ආණ්ඩුව වහාම මෙදිහත් වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඊර වෙලා ඉන්නේ. කණ්ඩත් නැහැ බොණ්ඩත් නැහැ ළමයින්ට. නිරෝධානේ මාස ගාණක් හිටියත් අපිට කමන්නේ අපේ ලංකාවට අපේ දරුවෝ ගෙනල්ලා දෙන්න කියලා මම ඉල්ලීමක් කරන්නේ.
Meanwhile, the Samaki Jana Balawegaya handed over a letter to the Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Relations requesting the authorities to repatriate Sri Lankan labourers.
This is a serious situation. When we urged them to close down the airport, they did not do so until the children of the elite returned. Those who earn foreign remittances for the country by engaging in tedious tasks are being mistreated. The UAE has ordered foreign labourers to leave before the 10th of August.
Grievances of expatriate labourers were discussed at several events today.
If the government has an issue with directing these people for quarantine, the NPP as a socialist party will intervene and support that effort. Bring down 20,000, we will tend to their needs. However, the rulers and the government did not pay heed to our statements. We urge the government to immediately repatriate our mothers, daughters and sisters who are suffering abroad. After today, all embassies in the Middle East will not function for days. How are the flights going to operate? People are repatriated based on the list they provide. For that to happen, the embassies should function. Why are they receiving people? Tell them if they will be repatriated once election is over.
These people have obtained health insurance from Sri Lanka Insurance worth 19,500 rupees before taking wing to these countries. They have paid for their insurance. It does not have to be borne by the government. The government is not intervening either. This is the ration pack that has been provided for 3 people to use for a single month. When we inquire from the ministry, it says millions have been spent to provide food. The secretary to the ministry asks us to report any hindrances in the process of distributing food. Is it our duty?
The Presidential Secretariat has announced the program of repatriating Sri Lankans residing abroad will recommence from the 31st of this month. Additional Secretary to the President for Foreign Relations, Admiral Jayanath Kolabage, said a repatriation flight will operate to Dubai on the 31st of this month.
Also making headlines this evening, Vice President of Sri Lanka Cricket K. Madivanan has resigned from his post, expressing disappointment at the conduct of SLC.
Statement, K. Madivanan added that the SLC has sidelined him from administration activities contrary to the norms which require vice presidents to participate in the process. He further noted that he had refused to endorse decisions taken without discussions and that the conduct of the SLC administration is detrimental to good order and discipline. Sri Lanka Cricket announced that its executive committee unanimously decided to appoint Dr. Jayantha Dharmadasa as the new vice president of SLC for the position made vacant by virtue of K. Madivanan's resignation.
Former Director of the State Intelligence Service and current Senior DIG of the Eastern Province, Nilantha Jayawardena, testified for the 3rd consecutive day at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the April 21, 2019 attacks.
Former SIS director testifying at the commission said way back in 2013, several reports about the rapid increase of Sinhala Buddhist and Muslim conflicts were sent to the relevant authorities, which included the promotion of extremist ideas by both sides. The witness added during the latter part of 2014 and early 2015, especially several reports into extremist ideologies as well as several groups and individuals who are Sri Lankan nationals travelling to Syria through Turkey to fight in support of ISIS were sent to high authorities who are in charge of national security, including to then Secretary of Defence Gotabaya Rajapaksa. When questioned by a commissioner whether there was a result he gained through informing the high authorities on numerous occasions regarding the threats and other matters about extremism, the former SIS Director Jayawardena said that he believes the SIS did their very best even with a limited staff. He further added that his unit has no legal provision to authorize police power to apprehend and question a suspect, but they have to provide intelligence reports. The former SIS director said the biggest threat to national security during his tenure was ISIS and extremist activities relating to them. Nilantha Jayawardena reiterated that he believes everyone is obliged to do their duty, and he did his duty to the fullest even though there was no result achieved.
Party leaders,
political update.
Several public meetings organized by the Samagi Jana Balawega was held last evening under the auspices of its leader Sajith Premadasa. Here are some of the views he expressed during a meeting in Kahavatta. People of this country are living with a lot of difficulties. Their day-to-day activities have been halted. The businesses have collapsed. We will give the neediest the 20,000 rupees every month until the economy recovers. We will not let you spend it at a tavern close to your house. We are giving you this money to safeguard your children and family. Through investments and savings, we will uplift the economy. The Samagi Jana Balawega is the team that protects the country and its future. After addressing the gathering, Sajith Premadasa was greeted by the general public.
Walk Free, an Australian-based human rights organisation, together with the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative, will launch a report on modern slavery tomorrow. Newsfirst Azra Hassan spoke to Grace Forrest, co-founder of Walk Free, about the key findings of the report.
Grace, what are the key findings of this report and why do you think it is important?
The key finding of this report is that Commonwealth governments are not doing enough to be on track to end slavery by the commitments they've made by 2030. The stark reality is that there are more people living in slavery today than any other time in human history. 1 out of every 150 people in the Commonwealth are living in some form of modern slavery, which is completely unacceptable. What we've found is that only 1/3 of countries have criminalised forced marriage, and 23 have failed to criminalise the commercial sexual exploitation of children. This is completely unacceptable. Out of 54 countries, only 4 are working with business to investigate issues within supply chains of exploitation and abuse. And this is simply not good enough. What this report is calling on is for governments to create a major initiative across the Commonwealth to tackle modern slavery. And why it is important is because in the midst of a global pandemic, when so many issues are being put to the sideline, we want to remind governments that millions of people living in modern slavery is also a global crisis and it cannot be forgotten. The two do not exist in isolation. People have called COVID-19 a great equaliser, but that is simply not true. COVID-19 has created a heat map of vulnerability throughout the world, and those who are most vulnerable are going to be impacted for a much longer amount of time and in a much more extreme way. The reality is the ability to social distance is a privilege, and for millions of people throughout the world, it is just not a possibility. We need the countries with the most power and the most equity throughout the Commonwealth to ensure there is basic safety for all people throughout Commonwealth countries. And we need to remember that while COVID-19 in and of itself is a crisis, it is also unveiling other crises that have been ignored for such a long time. COVID-19 is a crisis, but if we ignore these other crises which are in our midst, they will only get worse and be harder to deal with. So our key recommendation is for Commonwealth countries to create a major initiative throughout the Commonwealth to tackle modern slavery and exploitation. We don't want one single country to be left behind. And part of this is about enacting strong legislation. Both Australia and the United Kingdom have modern slavery acts, and we would love to see legislation such as this across other Commonwealth countries, holding supply chains and businesses to account and creating transparency throughout global supply chains.
In news-making headlines this evening as well, a batch of 5 Rafale fighter jets touched down to a special water cannon salute at the Ambala Air Base this afternoon. The first Western combat aircraft to join the Indian Air Force 23 years after Sukhoi aircraft were imported. And with that, we wrap up News First Primetime News. Thank you very much for watching. For the News First team, I am Shahan Jarampati. Good night and do take care.